Dear Imani.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Dear Imani. I'm your host, Imani. Obviously, I'm so happy to have you all back. It is the last day of Women's History Month, if you're listening to this Friday, March 31st. And I wanted to have an episode talking about multidimensional women just because it's Women's History Month and women can truly do it all. So I thought, what better way than bring my friend? She is a future astronaut. She's an actress, a model, Sports Illustrated model. She owns a nonprofit and she's Miss Oregon USA and a lot of other things that we will get into. But she is a definition of layers, okay? She is Manju. Yeah.
Hi.
Yay. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yay. We actually just did Instagram Live together because you have like an IG Live show called My Friends Are Cool,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Yeah, so we just did that. And then we met up like a couple months ago when you were out here and had dinner. So we're friends, y'all.
Yeah.
Hella cute. So for starters, what brought you out to LA? Because you live in Oregon.
Yeah, so I live in Oregon, but I just booked a TV pilot, which is so exciting. And so I have my fitting in a couple days. And so I am getting ready for the TV pilot, getting ready for rehearsals, and then filming next month.
Yay. You guys are going to hear, like, as we're talking, you're going to be like, dang, she do that, she do that. Like, we're just going to casually jump into different things that she does. But that's what this episode's all about. And just for you, why is it important to be like a multidimensional woman?
I think for me, it's about not boxing myself in or not staying in one lane. When I was younger, I was always told you have to focus, you have to stay in one lane, you have to just pick something and go with it. And for me, it's like, well, if I like acting and if I like physics and if I like modeling, why not? Why don't I get to pursue all of it? And I've been called childish so many times because people are like, only a child wants to be like a princess, cowboy, astronaut. And I'm like, well, who cares? Like, what's wrong with wanting to pursue all of those things and make your dreams reality?
Yeah, I love that. I remember I called it like elementary dreams because most people, I think there's a lot of layers as to why people don't follow their dreams. One, because people got to put food on the table.
Yep.
But also society makes you feel like you can't do it. Like
Right.
someone saying that's like, it's childish to dream that big. But if we all just went back to our elementary school dreams, like if you ask a child what they want to be when they grow up, they're going to be like superstar,
Yep.
pop star, just everything.
Yep.
And then as they get older, they feel like that's not possible when it totally is because somebody has to be the next Beyonce.
Right.
So why can't it be you, you know?
Right.
So when you introduce yourself, like if you paint the picture and you're somewhere and they're like, oh, so what do you do? What do you say? Because you do so much.
Yeah, I actually got asked that question yesterday, and I was like, oh, I'm an actor, because that makes sense to say in LA. And then
Yeah.
they're like, oh, so do you act full time? And I was like, no, I run a nonprofit full time. And I'm also trying to be an astronaut right now. And I'm also Miss Oregon, so I'm going to be competing at Miss USA later this year. And they were like, okay, wow. And it's like a little overwhelming.
Yeah, they're like, what is that? that question always, like, I don't know, it triggers me. Maybe it's an insecurity, low key at the end of, like, it may just be like, oh, I just feel like I'm doing too much,
Yeah.
doing so much. So when people ask me that, I freak out. Like, I
Yeah.
hate that question. What do you do? Because it's not so simple like, oh, I'm an accountant.
Right.
It's like, oh,
Right.
let me just bring out the laundry
Right.
list of things I do.
Right.
So now I think I say I'm in entertainment because then it just leaves it at that. Or if they're interested, then you can like say the list.
Right.
Because I feel like people get overwhelmed, right? They're like,
yeah.
what is all of that?
Yeah, and I feel like some people get judgmental, and they're like,
Yeah.
well, you can't possibly be doing all of that well. And it's like, no, I am.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Like I'm thriving.
Right.
And I bet like the astronaut thing really like throws them for a loop.
Yeah.
Because that is, you do not hear people wanting to be, I don't know anyone besides you that wants to be an astronaut.
Yeah, I know. The only time I've met other people who want to be an astronaut is in my training program.
Yeah.
And it's like the first time that I've met so many people who also want to go to space. And I'm like, this is kind of weird because I'm used to being the only person who wants to
Yeah.
do that. But it's cool to have that community and people that want to do the same thing as you.
Yeah. I saw in a video that you said that you have wanted to be an astronaut since you were 4. So let's just start there. What made you want to be an astronaut?
I was at the Evergreen Museum in Oregon, and I was learning about the different astronauts in the museum. And then I saw a portrait of Kalpana Chawla, who was the first Indian woman to go to space. And I didn't like quite understand representation, but I saw her and she looked like me, and she went and did this incredible thing of going to space. And I was like, wait, if she can do it,
I could do that.
I can do it. Yeah. And so that's kind of what sparked it. And then when the Columbia disaster happened, she passed away in that tragedy. And so I didn't even understand the concept of death that young. And then this like idol of mine passed away. And so I was like, I don't want to be an astronaut. I didn't even know you could die, let alone die in space. Like that's
Yeah.
frightening. And so I kind of like pushed it to the side. And then once I got into college and I started like like you said, going back to my elementary dreams, I was like, wait, I really do want to be an astronaut. Like, I want to do research in space and like live in space for a little bit and make it
Wow.
happen.
That is insane because, like, when I think of space, I'm like, "That is scary."
Yeah.
Like, that just sound I just think of, like you're floating, obviously, there's no gravity. And
Yeah.
I'm like, "How do you eat? How do you live?" You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But, like, you're like, "I would like to do that." So
Yeah.
then what are the steps? Like, okay, you say, "I wanna be an astronaut."
Yeah.
And then now it's like, Google how to
Yeah.
be a like, how do you be an astronaut? Like,
I
what?
I literally Googled NASA internships at one
Yeah.
point, and I was like, "Wait, can I work there, or is it like a secret club, or like
Yeah.
how does this work?" And so I ended up applying to over 100 NASA internships during my
Wow.
college career, and I got accepted to 0 of them initially. And then someone from NASA reached out and they were like, "Hey, we saw you applied to like a lot of internships, like a lot, and you didn't get any. We'll help place you with one."
Yeah.
And so I ended up doing my first internship at NASA, and then I did 4 more in Houston in the astronaut office, which is really rare to get to intern in the astronaut office. Usually you're in a different part of the center. And so I was working with astronauts every day and seeing what their day-to-day was. I was helping train some of them because I had helped build the displays in the cockpit of the spacecraft that's going back to the moon and eventually to Mars. So I was helping training them on how to use those displays. And so
Wow.
yeah, so I got to see what it is firsthand, and then once I graduated college, I joined this institute that's now training me on how to do research in space, and that's where I've met so many people who also wanna be an astronaut, and it's been such a cool experience. I was in training actually up to 1 day before Miss Oregon, and I
Wow.
can talk about that, but it was surreal to go from that where they're literally trying to teach us how to escape a submerged upside down aircraft. So we're like underwater fighting for our life and we have to push open a window and escape. And so going from that to like walking in 6-inch heels the next day, people were like, "How are you so calm?" And I was like, "I just drowned. So I'm
Yeah.
great now."
Wait, what? Wait, what? Wait, so why do you guys practice just in case if it crashes while you're going up?
Or while you're
Where's the
coming down, like
when you're
if you
coming down?
yeah,
Okay.
or even just
I was
like
about
if
to
you're
say, is there water in space?
right. You're like, "Hold on. I didn't know we discovered that."
Yeah, I was like, whoa, I didn't know there was water up there that you could drown in. Oh my God, that's so funny. Wow, that's incredible. So
Yeah.
your experience working with NASA, like how was that overall? That's
Yeah.
such a big, like everyone knows NASA.
Right, right. It was so surreal. One of my like absolute idols, she's the second Indian woman to go to space, Sunny Williams. I was getting mentored by her. I was getting mentored by like astronaut Victor Glover. And so like these are like history makers. And so to get to even be in their presence, let alone being mentored by them, was just absolutely surreal.
Wow, that is incredible. Like, listen to this, y'all. She just does it all. We're just gonna keep going and going. So, when you work, because you worked in the White House, we'll just
Yeah.
get there too, and we're gonna have to circle back to everything because it all comes together. But you worked in the White House. Was that with like NASA?
No, I applied to that separately. I
Oh,
applied
okay.
twice, got rejected, and then they ended up pulling me for the last 4 months of the Obama administration. Yeah.
Not Obama. Oh, did you meet Obama? Did you see Obama?
I walked past him in the hallway once, and he had, like, Secret Service around him, and I
Oh
was like,
my
"Hey,
god.
President."
Oh my
Like,
god.
and then I staffed an event for the First Lady at one point, to screen the movie Hidden Figures before it came out in theaters. We screened it for, like, 100 different middle and high schoolers that were in low-income areas of the DMV area, and the entire Hidden Figures cast came. One of the first Black women to go to space came. The first female chief technology officer of the US came, and then it was the First Lady. And when the movie started screening, I had nowhere to sit, and so I just because all the seats were full in the auditorium, so I went and sat at the feet of the cast, and
Oh
the
my
First Lady
gosh.
was right in front of me, and I have pictures where it's not Zoom, like, it's just a clear photo of the First Lady because that's how close I was to her.
And what's crazy, because like First Lady, obviously Miss Michelle
Yeah,
Obama, but
icon.
like that name Michelle Obama. So we were saying first, it's like Michelle Obama and then First Lady.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
like her name trumps like the title of First
Yes,
Lady, like
yes,
Miss Michelle Obama.
yes.
That is so cool. So what was that experience like working in the White House and being amongst all those icons?
Yeah, it was surreal. I mean, I was sorry I keep using that word, but
No,
everything in my life feels
everything is surreal. Okay.
I was working like 15-hour days, and I was
Wow.
there during the election, the 2016 election. I was there the night that the election happened in 2016. I was there during like really pivotal moments because once the election happened and we understood who the next president was going to be, we had to do a bunch of transition stuff. And so getting to work, basically what I was doing was me and my boss were overseeing something called the National Science and Technology Council. And it was literally just us running 100 different subcommittees and groups. And so there'd be one subcommittee on like space, there'd be another one on soil science. And so we were managing all of these science and tech topics and making sure that the next president and his administration understood what they needed to do to run the country.
Oh, okay. I was I was I was thinking, I was like, "Who is the next president?" Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Moving on.
moving on. So was the White House what you pictured it? Because most people haven't been to the White House,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
So when I think of it, I'm like, okay, this is obviously a huge White House.
Yeah.
It just seems so put together. So
Yeah.
was it like that
Yeah.
inside?
Yes, it was. Although I got invited into the West Wing at one point, and I'm just going to publicly admit this for the first time. I had coffee in my hand and I fell and it went all over the wall. And I was like, I just scarred the West Wing.
You made your mark.
I made my mark.
Did they come and clean it up fast? Hopefully not, because hopefully it stained it.
Right.
And then you go back and you're like, that was me.
That was me. I went back a couple weeks later and it was gone. And I was like, okay, the White House probably has resources to
Yeah,
clean
to
it
clean it
up.
up.
But my friends who were also interns were like, oh my God,
Oh my
she's so
God.
embarrassing.
That is so funny. Wow. That's incredible to be in the White House,
Yeah.
working with NASA. So now what is your next step in order to get to space?
Yeah. So one of the things I'm doing is I'm doing a microgravity flight, a zero gravity flight with this company called Go Zero G, which I'm really excited about doing. And then I'm going to be doing another zero gravity research flight with the institute I'm a part of. And those are going to kind of set me up to understand what it's like to operate in zero gravity, because although I won't be going to space yet, it's going to teach me how to operate in that environment. And that's really important because a lot of times when some people go up to space, they're so enamored by the zero gravity environment that they don't look out at Earth. And that's like the whole point, is like the view and the research, because how many people get to see Earth from that perspective?
Right.
And whereas you can experience zero gravity closer to Earth. And so that's going to help me like prepare for that environment. And then I'm going to keep doing training, and eventually, hopefully, I'll get picked by a private company like SpaceX or Blue Origin or Virgin Galactic to go up to space.
Wow. So how long does that process usually take for people? Like from this point, like a couple years or a few years to do that?
Yeah. So one of my classmates at the Institute, Kelly Girardi, just got picked by Virgin Galactic, and she did that in a couple years.
Oh, okay.
I mean, obviously she's been working at it for her whole life, but she got selected pretty quickly. And so I don't know what the timeline is. It could be like a year, it could be 5 or 10, but I'm ready whenever they sign me up.
So look out for her in space. We're gonna see you on the news and like, there she goes. She's going into space. That is so, so cool.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to modeling.
Yes.
Just doing the layers, okay? Moving on to modeling. So this girl right here, she was in Brown Skin Girl music video by Beyonce. And here on Dear Imani, we talk about Beyonce a lot. So if you're a faithful listener, you know that's my girl. So I can't get enough of her. And she actually got to meet her, which is crazy. We talked about this at dinner before, because I'm like, okay, my boyfriend Alex met Beyonce, worked with her. She met Beyonce. So it's like, I'm just left over. Like it's my time to shine too.
Right.
But she was in Brown Skin Girl music video. And when you told me that, looking back, I was like, I remember seeing you.
Oh my gosh.
Like I do, because I remember thinking like, oh, like, yes, brown skin girl with all types of brown girls, like, you know, not just like African American or Black girls. So I was like, oh, I remember like seeing you like, oh yeah, this song is for all of us little brown girls.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like, one, and first, how did you get that?
Yeah, I did not. I have a manager and 2 agents that submit me to roles, and there was no audition or callback for that. I just got a call. My manager had submitted me in the morning, and by 5 p.m., I got a call from my manager, and she was like, you need to be on set in 2 hours. And this is when I was living in LA for a little bit. And so it worked out, because if I was in Oregon, I'm not making that role. And so I immediately left. I actually asked my friend to come with me, and she was like, oh no, I want to eat dinner and like stay at home. And I was like, okay. Well, she regrets that.
Yeah. What?
Yeah. So I got to the set, and it was like this warehouse, and there was a bouncer at the door, and he was like, what are you here for? And I was like, I don't know. My manager told me it's a Grammy Award winning artist, which is such a like underwhelming way.
That could be anybody.
Right. And so I had to call my manager. My manager called casting. Casting called the producer inside. The producer came out and got me. I signed the NDA, and then as I'm getting walked up to the green room, I was like, "Oh, what is this for?" And I hear Brown Skin Girl playing, but like I just thought they were playing music on set, like just fun music. And he starts laughing, and he was like, "You're on the set of Brown Skin Girl. You're gonna meet Beyonce and work with her." And I was like, I'm gonna vomit.
Like, that's crazy you didn't know what it was.
I had
Grammy
no idea.
award winning.
Yeah,
Come
I was like,
on.
that's
That
like
could
not
be
the way
anybody.
right. That's not the way I would describe Beyonce even a little
No,
bit.
not even a little bit.
Right. And so I got to the green room. We did hair and makeup. I got in my gown, and then there was 5 of us girls. And the creative director comes up to us and she was like, "I don't want to scare you before you guys meet Beyonce and work with her, but I just want to let you guys know, obviously we narrowed down the headshots and the profiles, but Beyonce's ultimately the one that picked you." And I was like, "Beyonce thinks I'm pretty."
What? That is insane.
So no one can ever tell me I'm less than because Beyonce thinks I'm enough.
Beyonce handpicked you.
Yeah.
Like, she's looking at the headshots and she's like, not her, definitely her. And it's the definitely her is you.
I know.
Don't ever forget that.
I know.
Yeah, I know you won't. But that is incredible. So did you get to talk to her at all, or did she say anything to you?
Yeah, so when I walked onto set, I'm minding my business. I'm trying to be professional, cool, calm,
Yeah.
collected. And she comes up to me and she's like, "Hi, how are you? Do you need anything?" And it's like Beyonce does not need to be asking a random girl on set
You're
that.
like, actually, I need some water.
Right,
Could you get
yeah.
that for me? Like,
I was just like, "Oh, I'm great. Like, I'm getting paid to work with you. I'm getting paid to meet you and work with you."
yeah.
So I was like, "No, I'm good." And I just went to my spot and just like did what they asked. And Blue Ivy was on set too.
Yeah.
And we were working till 2 or 3 a.m. And she was so professional, so like, just working hard, doing her thing. So it was like really incredible to see the work ethic of everyone on set. Kelly Rowland was on set.
Yeah, and isn't her mom in that video? Tina?
Yeah, I didn't see her. That was the scene that I was in was with Kelly Rowland, Blue Ivy, and Beyonce.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Just
just
casually.
casual. Yeah. No
The
big
scene
deal.
that I was working on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. And that music video, if you haven't seen it, which if you're listening to this podcast, there's no way you haven't seen the music video. It's the one and the same. It's such a beautiful music video and such an honor to be a part of, just because that album itself was Black is King, which was kind of around her when she was Nala in Lion King.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I'm sure you watch Black is
Yeah.
King on Disney Plus,
Yeah.
but it's just such an incredible film, and she celebrates Black culture so well. So like overall, what was it like, or being a part of that music video and what that means for so many brown girls?
Yeah. And when I first heard Brown Skin Girl, I was like, this is the most beautiful song I've ever heard. But I knew that it was meant for little black girls to hear and know that their skin, their bodies, that them as black girls are beautiful as they are. And then when I got this role, I was like, oh, I'm included in that. Like, that's so special to me because that wasn't my expectation at all. But the fact that she included Native girls, Indian girls, as well as Black girls, just like brought us together in a way that was so special and so meaningful.
Yeah, I love that. And it's because at the end of the day, like people would view us one and the same.
Yeah.
When it comes, just because of our skin tone, and obviously like colorism is such a huge thing in most cultures and ethnicities and stuff. Like, I'm sure like I can attest to that within the Black culture. You can attest to that within your community too. Just like being darker skinned is like such an issue for some reason. So for her to, talk about that and make a song dedicated to us gals, it's so special.
I know. Like in India, the bleaching industry, the skin bleaching industry is a $1 billion industry.
Wow.
It's called Fair and Lovely, and it's literally telling you that you need to lighten your skin. I remember getting those little lotion packets during Christmas and being like, "Hey, girlie, you look great, but like just lighten your skin a little bit." And so the fact that I've never done that, I've never indulged in that. I was never allowed in the sun when I was younger. So that was like, it was just really special to get to embrace my melanin in that way and have it validated.
Yeah, I love that. I know so many people are told, don't go in the sun, you're gonna get darker, or like that, those skin bleaching creams and stuff. I remember seeing a video of a little Black girl, and she was saying that she tries to like rub her skin off with soap. And I'm like, that it's hard to get out of that that headspace too, just because of society and maybe even starting at the home. Like people like if your mom's like, don't go outside, you're gonna get darker. Or like if you're the darkest out of your siblings and maybe you're getting made fun of by your brothers and sisters, there's just so many layers to that. So shout out to Beyonce for making us feel cute in our skin. And then she has her song Cozy in My Skin on Renaissance. But we're not here to talk about that.
We can. I'm ready.
We can talk about her. Okay, so boom, modeling. No. There's more modeling. Hold on, hold on. Excuse me. She also has modeled for Sports Illustrated. Must say that again. She has modeled for Sports Illustrated, which is one of the most prestigious magazines known to man. Like
Yeah.
literally, this is what we've seen on shelves for decades. And they really changed like kind of their messaging over the
Mhm.
past years, where I feel like at first it was kind of something that was looked at through the male gaze.
Yep.
And now it's like the women's gaze, and like females love to purchase the magazines and see the girls because there's so many different women, backgrounds, body
Mhm.
types, and everything. So for starters, let's just go through that journey of like how you got to be a part of Sports Illustrated,
Yeah.
that submission video, and why you even wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah, so last year's theme was "Be the change you wanna see," and I love that quote because that's kinda what I try to live day to day, and so once I saw that, I was like, "Okay, I need to submit," and then I was actually in LA for a few days, and obviously I can't film, like, swimsuit content in Oregon in
Yeah.
January, that's just not
No
happening in the
way.
Pacific Northwest, and so it worked out that I was in LA, so I filmed it and then I wasn't gonna submit my video because like, my voiceover wasn't sounding great, and I didn't have, like, a proper mic, and it just wasn't looking professional, and I wanted to submit the best thing I could, and then my friend 15 minutes before was like, "Okay, you just need to submit it, like, the worst thing is that you don't get it, but,
Mhm.
like, you're never gonna know if you don't try," and so I submitted it 15 minutes before the deadline, and then I went and did my institute training, the astronaut stuff, and we did, like, flights, and we did hypoxia training and a bunch of other stuff, and then, the Sunday I come back, I get a call. I had a call back, right before the institute training, but I was like, "I don't know, there's, like, 60 or 70 girls." Obviously, it got narrowed down from thousands of submissions, but I don't know, and then the Sunday I get back from the institute training, I get a call from a New York number, and I'm not one to pick up random calls
Mhm.
because it's, like, usually spam. But I
Yeah.
was like, "Why is New York calling me?" So I pick it up and they're like, "Hey, congrats, you're one of the finalists, and we're gonna be flying you out to the Dominican Republic later this week."
Later this week?
Yeah, it was so fast.
What?
It was so fast, and so they announced on International Women's Day and then flew us out a couple days later, and it was so crazy because I, wasn't feeling well the night before, and we had to COVID test right before we went
Mhm.
and before we left the DR, but I wasn't feeling well the night before, and I remember calling my mom, and I was like, "I don't know if I can do this shoot, like, I feel really crappy." And I wake up the next day, I'm late to set by 15 or 20 minutes because 'cause I'm feeling that gross.
Mm.
I didn't know if it was, like, jet lag or just traveling, I didn't know, but I did hair and makeup, I went on set, we shot the pictures, and then in the afternoon, we were supposed to do video content, but they were like, "Hey, we need a COVID test before everyone leaves tomorrow." And then I COVID test, and they're like, "Hey, could you come back for a second COVID test?" And so I COVID test again, and they're like, "Hey, you have COVID." And I was like, "Did I just get
Oh.
everyone on set sick?" Like, and so I didn't get to film the video content at all. I went back to my room and I had to quarantine for 5 days. Sports Illustrated was so incredible. They paid for all my hospital bills. They took care of me. They had someone stay an extra couple days just to check in on me, even just by phone. Like, they weren't checking in my hotel room, but they took care of me. And then after the shoot, a month later in New York, they refilmed my video content in the studio in New York. Like, they were
Wow.
incredible. And then later, we did the launch party in Miami. That was surreal because like, Cammy Crawford was there, like, all these
Yeah.
icons were there, Camille Kostek, and then, a week after that, they notified me that I was advancing in the competition, and I was gonna walk in Miami Swim Week with Sports Illustrated.
It just keeps getting better.
Yeah.
But let me go back a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, yeah. I was like, "Let me pause."
I'm like, let's take a pause because
Yeah.
that's a whole thing in itself,
Yeah.
walking Miami Swim Week, which is super cool.
Yeah.
So what when you did you know that you had to be out of the country? Like when you were at your training,
Yeah.
did they give you a timeline or they're just like, pack it up, time to go?
They did give us a
Oh,
timeline.
okay.
Yeah,
So you
yeah, yeah,
kind of
yeah.
knew if you were to make it, you
Right.
were gonna be like flown out
Right,
like
but,
really
like, I
quickly.
didn't know I was gonna
Yeah.
like, I didn't, and then they were like, "Hey, we're booking your flight, like, what airport are you flying out of?" and all of that, and I was like, "Ooh,
Wow.
I'm doing
That
this."
is so crazy. Were they, like, helpful on set when it comes to posing, or did you kinda already feel like you knew what to do?
I feel like I knew a little
Mhm.
bit just because of pageant stuff and, like, doing so many photo shoots, but it's different with SI, and so they were definitely like, "Okay, like, let's try this," but they did give me flexibility, like, MJ Day, the editor-in-chief, she helped me pick out the swimsuits, but, ultimately, it was up to me,
Mhm.
and that was really nice to be able to do something I felt comfortable in, and she got me to wear, like, a low-waisted swimsuit, which is something I
Mm.
don't do.
Mhm.
She was, like, encouraging about that, and I did it, it was my favorite look, so I'm really glad
Yeah.
I did.
Oh, serving body.
Yeah.
Yeah, girl. Like, but I get it though, because I feel like depending on where I'm at, which
Yeah.
is, kind of toxic. I wouldn't wear like a high waisted
Mhm.
something. But everyone wear with a low waisted bikini. That's my
Yeah.
goal this summer, not in the sense of like my physique, but
Yeah.
no matter where I'm at,
Yep.
to put the low waisted outfit
Yes.
on. Like,
Yes.
stop wearing the high
Yep.
rise. And
Yep.
like, if you like it, you like it. But for me, I feel like I was always doing it because of a insecurity of
Yep.
some sort when it just literally doesn't matter.
Right.
So
Right.
everything doesn't have to be high waisted, y'all.
Yep. 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 Yep.
Yeah. Wow, that is so cool. So then from there you went to Miami Swim Week.
Yeah.
Did everyone go to Miami Swim Week from your DR shoot?
No,
So that
so
you were
only
selected.
3 of us went on. Yeah,
Wow.
and then the rest were, like, the icons from SI that have been with them for years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, it
Like
was
Katie and all of them.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, Kristen
Uh-huh.
Harper, Katie Austin, yeah, all of them. So, it was, like, insane to just, I walked right after Katie Austin at one point, and it's like, that's insane, like,
Yeah.
Camille Kostek was, like, hanging out with us,
Yeah.
everyone was so kind, so sweet, and so grounded, like, none of them were like, "Oh, I need this," like, none of them were, like, divas or anything, they were
Right.
so sweet and kind.
But then Katie Austin also came from this swim
Yep.
search as well.
Yep.
So it's crazy because you're looking at her, like you walked after her, you're like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, she's the icon. Like, but she started off the same way that
Yep.
you did too. So kind of just a lesson to show like and so eventually you're all watching, listening, you become that girl for someone else
Yeah.
because then someone is looking up to you now, like, oh, she made it this far. Like, I want to do that too. So when you saw your pictures in the spread, was it in the magazine and online?
Yeah, I didn't know if I was gonna be in the
Uh-huh.
magazine because it's swim search, so I didn't know, but I was on 2 pages in the magazine. I literally have every copy of every cover
Yeah.
because I was like, "What this is history for me."
Oh my gosh,
And I was the
yes.
first South Asian finalist, so that was, like, history too. Yeah,
Wow.
so I was like, "Wait, like, we did something, we made
Yeah, you
history."
did. That is so cool. So when you were, like, going through the pages, did you cry? I feel like I would've cried.
Yeah, I filmed it. It's on my TikTok, but I was
Okay.
like, "I love this whole magazine, but I need to find, like, if I'm in it." And
Yeah.
then I found myself, and then I found myself on 3 different pages, actually, and I was like, "Wait, like, we did
Wow.
this." And there was, like, a little bio about each of us, and it was so special, and even walking in Miami Swim Week, it was like, wait, like, I wore, henna and a bindi on
Yeah.
and I was the first girl to do that at any Miami Swim Week
Mhm.
show, so it was like, I tried to
Wow.
find, like, places where I could continue to make history in that way.
Yeah, and you did.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
that's such an honor, like, Miami Swim Week, that's something that's actually on my, what's it called? My vision board for this
Yeah.
year, which is coming up, I think, in July.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because it's just such a fun week, I feel like, and it makes so many great opportunities and whatnot, so that's cool that you even got to walk in Miami Swim Week,
Yeah.
girl. So your shoot was technically, like, a year ago around this time?
Yep,
Because
yep, yep.
we said it was on Women's Day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I'm sure, like, all of that's kinda, like, coming back on your timeline, right? Are you
Yeah,
like, "Oh my god."
I know, I was like, "It's been a year," like, that's
Yeah.
so my life's so different in such a good way now, like, especially
Yeah.
after SI. It's so surreal.
Yeah, because now adding to another layer, now you're Miss Oregon USA, yeah! So when'd you start pageants? I saw in that SI video you went to Miss World America, actually,
Yeah.
okay. So when'd you start pageants or when'd you, like, realize you wanted to be involved in that?
Yeah, I started in 2013, I think, so it's been, a decade,
Oh,
and I
okay.
started in Miss Oregon Teen USA, did that 2 years, got 2nd runner up, and then I've
Mhm.
done Miss Oregon USA 3 times, and then when I was in DC for a little bit, I also did Miss DC USA,
Mm, mhm.
and that was it last June, and I didn't even make semis. It was the first time I had never made semis before, and then I came to Miss Oregon USA 6 months later and I won. So it's like it's just like different judges, different day, you
Mhm.
just never know, you know that. And so
Mhm.
in between, the different Miss Oregon USAs, I competed at Miss World America. I represented California when I was living in LA and then Oregon, the 2nd year, and I made top 10 both years, but that taught me a lot about, like, how I can improve.
Yeah, wow, just 6 months later, you went
Mhm.
from not placing to winning.
Yeah.
And that's just a prime example. In pageants, we do always say that, different day, different judges, different
Mhm.
outcome, which right there shows you that it's true.
Yeah.
So when you heard your name being called as Miss Oregon, what did that feel like for you?
I just got chills remembering it. I fell to
Yeah,
the floor. I literally
yeah.
fell to the floor and I was like, "Okay, collect yourself. Like, get back up, get the crown on." But, I was so not expecting it. And I talked to Maureen, who's our director, who's your director as well, and she was like when I looked at the card, I was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna change her life. Like, this is
Yeah.
life-changing," because she's seen me progress through the different Miss Oregon USAs from making top 10 or top 12 to never making top 5. This is the first time I ever made top 5 in,
Mm.
any pageant other than the Miss Oregon Teen USA
Mhm.
pageant. And so going from top 5, I was hoping my question and my answer were good enough, and then I won, and I was like it still hasn't hit me. Sometimes I carry around my crown and sash, and I'm like, "They gave this to me. Is that
Yeah.
right?"
Yeah, and it's gonna be a whole 'nother wave when you go to Miss USA, obviously, because
Yeah.
it's like, "Wait, I'm actually a Miss USA."
Mhm.
So, speaking of your question, what was your top 5 question?
It was, they started off by saying if you were president, and I thought they were gonna ask the policy I would, like, wanna
Mm,
install first, but they were like, "If you were president, who would your vice president be?" And that's, like, a shaky question because, like, if you say an actual person, people are gonna people aren't gonna be
yeah.
happy, but I knew that I didn't care about pleasing anyone, but being satisfied with my answer
Mhm.
myself, and I ended up saying that I would wanna lead with another woman of color because 'cause we've been marginalized for so long, and it's our time to have a seat at the table. And even then, like, Maureen got some people giving her feedback being like, "How did she win with that answer? That's so polarizing." And it's like, it's polarizing to say that women of color should have a seat at the table. Like, we have so much work to do if that's the case.
Yeah, and we do
Yeah.
because people are insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, we talked about that at dinner too, and I was telling you during my reign that I mean, I was 2020 girl, so
Yeah.
we had the election, we
Yep.
had racial injustices,
Yep.
all of that. And so I would talk on my stories about like police brutality,
Yeah.
and our director Marine would get emails sent to her like, "Your title holder is a police hater, and she's this and she's that." And I'm like, first of all, like, what did you expect from a black woman?
Mhm.
To like what do you think my opinion was really gonna be?
Right.
Not that we all have the same opinions,
Right.
but like, come on.
Right.
So they were really upset by that, and she got so many emails. Even one I got one from our one of our sponsors who's no longer a sponsor,
Mhm.
and their store shut down, so karma. But but no longer a sponsor, and she like sent me this long message like why I shouldn't be saying that, blah blah blah. But really, what you're asking people is to just shut up and
Yep.
do your job. And
Yep.
I remember someone told I think LeBron James
Yep.
this, and they were like, "Just shut up and dribble,"
Yep.
which is such a derogatory thing to say to anyone, but especially people of color, because
Yep.
you're just saying like, "Well, your only use is entertainment or
Yep.
this, and you need to dribble that basketball,
Yep.
throw it, and that's it." Where we
Right.
don't get to do anything else, like speak our truth or say like talk about anything important. So I know exactly how that felt too. Like when
Yeah.
Maureen probably told you that of like, "Oh,
Yeah.
people were kind of like this about your answer," which your answer was great because you're just saying what is the truth of
Right.
what we do need to see
Right.
women of color in those high positions.
Right, and that's what like, this episode's about being multifaceted. I think part of being multifaceted is not being afraid to speak your truth and the truth of the reality of this country and the history of this country, especially with so many, like, book bans and people are trying to ban AP African American Studies, like,
Mhm.
all of this Black history, all of the history of this country, people are trying to silence, and so it's even more important that everyone, but specifically people with platforms like title holders, make sure that their views are clear on these issues, especially because it's going to be brought up in top 5. So even if you aren't vocal about it on social media, you're going to get asked something about that during your actual pageant.
Yeah, so you might as well get comfortable now.
Right, right.
Yeah, because you're gonna have to say something.
Yep.
So speaking of Miss Oregon, going to Miss USA, before Miss USA, you have a platform which is not just your platform, but a part of your job and
Yeah.
what you do, and you have a nonprofit called Operation Period.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about that, why you wanted to start that, and what you do with all of that?
Yes. So I started Operation Period in 2015. So it was over 8 years ago now. And our mission, first and foremost, was to get people menstrual products who don't have them and to get them menstrual health education. And we've delivered over 300,000 menstrual products. We've done menstrual health education in 5 countries. We've done a lot of cool stuff. And now our focus is to train other young people on how to do those things. Because right now, there's a lot of menstrual injustice in this country. In federal prisons, people often only get 2 pads per month, which is just absurd,
Yeah,
and,
wow. Per month?
yeah, per month, yeah,
2?
yeah, and so they have to barter. They'll be like, "I'll give you my food for the day if you give me your products for the day."
But we use, like, people you have to use multiple pads a day.
I know, so they're just free bleeding, and it's like there's,
Wow.
like the people don't have access to toilets sometimes in prison,
Mm.
and so there's, like, feces, there's, like, menstrual blood, like, it's just very unsanitary, and then it puts them at risk for diseases or infections, like, prisons are a whole other story, and we're actually working on a documentary film to, show people the reality of what it's like to menstruate in prison, and our lead subject is Taisha Huntsman,
Mm.
and her story is really astounding because she's been in and out of prison since she was 12. Now she's 5 years free of prison, but when she was in juvenile detention, she was denied menstrual products for years, and then when she had them, she said they were literally made of cardboard, so they couldn't absorb anything, And then once she got to adult prison, she was pregnant. And when she went into labor, they handcuffed her to her bed for 27 hours and then denied her her chance to hold the baby after the umbilical cord was cut. And any mom knows that holding their baby in those first initial moments is really important for bonding.
Mhm.
And during strip searches, they would forcibly remove the menstrual products. I mean, it's like insane. And so now what we're doing is we're working on that film for awareness, and we're doing like more media about it. And then we're also creating an institute to train other young people on how to advocate for menstruators.
Wow.
Yeah.
Girl, she just does it all. So what made you was there something in particular that happened maybe in your life that made you wanna start Operation Period or just, like, just being a woman and seeing the lack of resources for others?
Yeah, I feel like I've lived a really privileged life in a lot of ways, especially income-wise. Like I've never had my parents aren't like wealthy rich, but
Mhm.
they've had enough that they've been able to always provide us basic necessities.
Mhm.
And early 2015, I was complaining about my period pain, which is fair. Like period pain is awful. But I kind of recognized that I had products, I had Midol, I had a roof over my head. And so I started Googling like how I could help people who didn't have access to those things. And I wasn't finding anything that told me that there was a nonprofit about it. There was nothing basically at that time. And I was thinking about it. And then later that week, I ran into someone who couldn't afford their menstrual products. And so I bought both of ours together. And then I was like, okay, this is like a sign that I need to do something more than just help this one person.
Mhm.
And so that's when I started Operation Period.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then from when you started when you were by yourself, which is you, and then now you have a team of people. And so what was that like transition like from the beginning to where you are now with Operation Period?
It's so crazy because now I'm a full-time paid staff member,
Yes.
and anyone who's ever started a business or nonprofit knows how hard it is to be able to raise enough so that you can pay
You
yourself.
have a salary, yeah.
Yes, and benefits, like, I have healthcare, like, that's fantastic.
Mhm. Through your own thing, like, that's
Yeah.
your nonprofit, and you have a salary and benefits, which is incredible.
Yeah, so it's just I mean, it's insane, and to have a team that cares about the work as much as you do and wants to contribute to it and make this world a little bit better is just amazing.
Wow, so you're using your platform as Miss Oregon, this is your platform.
Mhm.
But what's so cool about you, and we talked about this before too, is, like, a lot of times with title holders, we have this platform where people make nonprofits, and that's great, but it's not necessarily a part of who they are. You kinda
Mhm.
just make it for that year, make that change throughout that year, which is amazing, but this is a part of, like, who you are.
Yeah.
You've been doing this for years before you were a title holder, and will continue to do it well after even if you win Miss Universe, you're gonna
Yeah.
do it well after that too, so that's what's
Yeah.
really, special about what you do. So going into Miss USA or just in the future of Operation Period, actually, where do you hope to see it go?
I really want a world where menstruation holds no one back. I don't want Operation Period to exist because
Mm,
if it doesn't exist anymore, it means we've solved the issue. Like
mm,
we've addressed what we were trying to address. And so ideally, Operation Period I can dissolve because we've solved the issue of menstrual injustice. Obviously, that's dreaming really big, but like that's kind of my whole life is like these absurd dreams that I think can happen. And one of my favorite academics, Miriam Kaba, she has a quote and she says, "Hope is a discipline." And I feel like we talked about that during the IG Live too, of just making sure that we maintain hope for the future because it's kind of a privilege to give up.
right. Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah.
A word? Okay, I said, "Wait." Yeah, she ate with that. I was gonna ask you something about Operation Period again. Have you had any backlash from everything has backlash. You're trying to save the world, and people are like, "Wah, I don't like that," So everything has backlash. But what are some comments that people have said that were like negative?
Yeah, people just get really uncomfortable because it's about periods, and I'm like, "It's not like, it's the most natural thing, like, you were born because a person had a period
Yeah,
and was able to have their egg fertilized," like, you know
yeah,
what I'm saying? Like, and so and it's about basic human rights for me, and so anytime someone has backlash or they're uncomfortable, my mentor always says, "Be comfortable with get comfortable with being uncomfortable," and I
hmm
feel like that's so important because, people don't wanna talk about reproductive justice, they don't wanna talk about menstruators, and it's like, yeah, because it doesn't affect you, like, when it doesn't affect you, it's easy to brush it off, but if you care about other people, like, you say whether through your religion or your morals, like, you're supposed to care about your neighbor, and so this is literally just exemplifying that and caring about your neighbor, like, that's what this is about, even if it doesn't affect you.
So, like for men, do you advise like men to jump on board and know what Operation Period is about? Do you have men that work on staff or like any of
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, so one of our, most incredible board members, Yisrael, he's, um, helped us so much with fundraising. He's such an advocate for menstruators, and it's really nice to have those advocates who don't menstruate still support the cause and want to make the world a better place.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, man, jump on board.
Right.
Because I mean, we need them too.
Yeah, especially because if
Yeah.
they have more power, it's like, okay, y'all
Yeah.
need to give something up for this to be equal.
Yes.
So
That is such an amazing nonprofit. I feel like I don't really hear people talk about that.
yeah,
I feel like within pageantry too, I've maybe heard like 3 women talk about that.
yeah.
Maybe that's their platform, but it's something that it's a privilege not to have to think about it. Like you
Mhm.
said, it's not something that I would just think about because I just go in the store and buy my products, and they're also expensive.
Yes.
Like even just for like people that can technically afford it, I'm like, I check out and I'm like,
Yeah.
why are those tampons that expensive? Like,
Yeah.
I think they should be free.
Yes.
But I don't know how that works for the economy, but I
No,
think
no,
they
no.
should be free.
Well, when we go into public restrooms, we don't expect people to bring in their own toilet paper, right? Because that's seen as an essential. So if I'm menstruating, why is a product not seen as essential too? I'm not bringing my own hand soap or my own paper towels. Like that stuff is provided because it's essential to my restroom experience, right? So why would products not be
Yeah.
included?
Why? Imagine if we had to bring our own toilet paper.
Yeah, that would be insane.
But you know why I think there's toilet paper is because men have to use it.
Yep. That's exactly why.
All-
Patriarchy is everywhere.
Yeah. All of our issues, me and my boyfriend Alex were talking about this.
Yeah.
I told him, I was like, your species is trash, 1. And 2, I was like, if I think about any issue I have in the world, it roots back to a man.
Yeah. The patriarchy is insane. The patriarchy is insane. And it's part of like every facet. Like these isms, whether it's like sexism, racism, they're literally embedded in every part. Like I just learned that the 3 meals a day is white supremacy because when
No, it is. Of course it is.
literally, because when European people came over to North America, they were seeing indigenous people eat when they were hungry. And they were like, that's animalistic because only animals go hunt when they're hungry. You need 3 proper meals at certain times. And that's why we don't eat when we're hungry anymore. We eat when there's a set time, which doesn't make sense for our body. Like intuitive eating is what makes sense for our bodies,
Yeah.
right? And so like I'm learning so much about how it's literally embedded in every part of our lives.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not eating 3 meals a day anymore because I would not be a part of white supremacy.
Yeah.
Well, you learn something new every day.
Yeah.
I've seen like other threads of like other things like that where like our everyday things that we do stems from like white supremacy or systemic racism.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is insane that everything we do, but different podcast,
Yeah.
different day, baby.
I'll be back.
Yeah, she'll be back. We'll talk about that. Okay, so then your next thing coming up is Miss USA, which is super exciting. Do you have like, how are you preparing for that?
I feel like part of it is that I've been preparing my whole life with my
Mhm.
speaking engagements, with interviews, like just all of it has helped me prepare for Miss USA. And then I'm doing specific stuff like making sure my nutrition, fitness are on point, like working on my walking because that always can improve, like just making sure I do all the things to feel my best. Even if it's not enough for the judges or it's not right for the judges, I want to know that when I stepped on stage, I did my best.
Mhm. And what's like a message that you want to show or say as if you were to be Miss USA or going into Miss USA?
I am not a size 0. I will never be a size 0 or a size 2 or 4 even. And so I just want to go up there and show women and little girls that they don't have to be this like stick thin model to have a voice to represent the causes that they care about and to be themselves. Like I just want to remind little girls that anything is
Yeah.
possible no matter what your size or shape is.
Yes, and that, especially in the pageant community, as we know, like we've talked about this too, just like that body image and like I know before Miss USA, I had lost a lot of weight, but then I gained a lot of it back because that just wasn't my natural state of body.
Right.
So naturally, I was gonna gain it back. So putting myself through, and granted, it's good to eat healthy and work out. But I was like really trying to get to a certain size and look. And really, it's just like it can become a toxic cycle in your head. So like showing that on stage and like showing girls that no matter if you don't have to be a size 0 or 2 or a 4. You don't have to be a 6, 8, 10, 12. You could be anything. It's actually, you can be any size, and be Miss USA, which is so interesting to me too, because in what appearance has a Miss USA done where they needed to be a certain size? There's not.
Right.
There's not a single appearance where you have to be a certain size. So why is it the standard to look a certain way? And also, I was telling you too, I'm like, if a judge was like trying to be like, she's not a 0, you could just pull out the magazine, the Sports Illustrated magazine. Like, I wasn't a 0 here, honey.
Right.
And so I definitely don't got to be a 0 here.
Exactly.
Because I was in Sports Illustrated.
Yep. And I think that helped me a lot at Miss Oregon USA. It like validated my body a little bit. and my fitness to be like, okay, she wasn't a size 0 then, she's not a size 0 now, but she's healthy, she's fit, she's confident. Like those are the things that matter in a title holder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can't wait for you. And then you were saying too, if you were to win Miss USA, that would be historic?
Yes, because I would be the first South Asian woman to win Miss USA. There's never
Oh,
been a South Asian woman. So
wow.
fingers crossed.
Fingers
Yeah.
crossed. That would be incredible. Oh my gosh. And then another thing,
Yeah.
if you were to win Miss Universe,
Yes.
then you would be the first Miss Universe to go to space.
Yes. Yes. I want to take that crown and sash to space one
Yeah.
day.
Miss Universe goes to space.
Yeah.
Like, come on, you guys. Miss Universe organization. Hello. Hello. I mean, this is your meal ticket right here. So all of that, I mean, we went through so many things that this young woman does. Like and I'm sure there's a lot more too. Like, especially you could just dive deeper and deeper. So all of that. And before we were recording, you were telling me that you have made a children's book, and it actually is going to bring all of this together because it's called
You Can Be All the Things You Want to Be.
See, what? You can be all the things that you want to be, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what you do. So are you able to like kind of say what the children's book would be about?
Yeah. So it's about a little girl, a 6-year-old named Zara, and she wants to be a chef, musician, filmmaker in space. She wants to be an astronaut in space as well. And it's about her journey and her getting, she goes through a couple setbacks and a couple people telling her it's not possible. But she eventually finds her way and gets herself to space. So
Yeah.
and I'm hoping it'll be a series, and we'll see. But gotta get that first book out, so it'll be out in May, which I'm really excited about.
It's gonna be in New York's best selling, I'm sure. Because also everything that you've talked about is like, of course, there's years that go into it, but it also you're young, so all this
Yeah.
stuff is happening fast. Like to
Yeah.
be this successful at this age. So I'm sure the book would be a bestseller in no time
Thank
with
you.
the rate of how everything else is going. But that
Yeah.
sounds so exciting. I can't
Thank
wait to
you.
read it
Thank
and
you.
see it. So usually at the end, I always have Imani's final thoughts. So I'm gonna have Imani's final thoughts, and it's gonna be short and sweet, which is just do it. Just do all the things. I mean, that's something that we've obviously talked about the whole episode today. Something that I do myself. I feel like I put myself in so many different baskets and wanting to do it all just because, like I mentioned earlier, really sticking to those elementary school dreams. I want someone to be able to look back and see when Imani said, "Oh, I want to be this when I grew up." And then they look at my life now and like, "Oh, she really became that and she's doing more than what she said too." So just for all of you listening and watching, never let go of those elementary dreams and always stay true to who you are. Keep those passions. Even if you don't take it as a career, just have those passions still within you. So like if you dance, for instance, you don't have to want to become a professional dancer, but take class as an adult because that's something that you love and that you are passionate about. So overall, just do it. So thank you so much for coming on this podcast. Like this, I feel like this is a perfect way to end Women's History Month just because you literally do it all. And I cannot wait to see you go to Miss USA, go to space. What did we cover? Okay, we said astronaut, actress, Sports Illustrated, brown skin girl, nonprofit owner. Like we went through the whole thing. And I'm
Yeah.
so proud of you.
Thank you for having me. This is so fun.
Yes.
I literally adore you. So this was so fun.
Yay. We just fangirl over each other.
Yeah,
What's
literally.
new? But thank you so much. Thank you guys for
course.
listening and watching. I know you enjoyed this episode because why would you not? Why'd you not? But thank you. And I'll see you all next week. Thank you, girl.
Thank you.
Hello, dear Imani.